Chapter 9. Meg has a beauty lesson. Meg stood packing her trunk one April day. She had been invited to spend 2 weeks in the country with Annie Moffat and her family. Sally Gardiner was going as well. "What did Mother give you out of the treasure box?" asked Amy. The treasure box was a cedar chest in which Mrs. March kept a few old valuables. They were presented as gifts for her girls when the proper time came. A pair of silk stockings, that pretty carved fan, and a lovely blue sash. "I wanted the violet silk dress, but there isn't time to fix it." "You've got your white dress for the big party. You always look like an angel in white," said Amy. "It will have to do," Meg returned. She looked at her well-worn wardrobe and sighed. "I wonder if I shall ever have real lace on my clothes and bows on my caps." "You said the other day that you'd be perfectly happy if you could only go to Annie Moffat's," observed Beth in her quiet way. "So I did. Well, I am happy and I won't fret. But it does seem as if the more one gets, the more one wants, doesn't it?" The next day Meg departed in the style for 2 weeks of pleasure. The Moffats were very fashionable. Simple Meg was rather overwhelmed at first. Everything was so splendid and elegant, but the Moffats were kind people, and soon put their guest at her ease. Meg certainly liked having nothing to do but enjoy herself. She began to act and talk just like the rich girls around her. The more she saw of Annie's pretty things, the more she sighed to be rich. Home now looked bare and dismal as she thought of it. It didn't take long for Meg to notice that her own clothing was old and shabby. Annie and her sisters wore only the finest dresses. No one said a word about it, but Meg's heart felt very heavy. She had a gentle heart, but she was also very proud. Poor Meg did not sleep well after a small party one evening. She got up heavy-eyed and unhappy. That afternoon Annie's oldest sister, Belle, announced to Meg that she had invited young Mr. Lawrence to the next big party. "What shall you wear?" asked Sally Gardiner. "My old white dress again," said Meg. She tried to speak quite easily, but felt very uncomfortable. Belle said kindly, "I've got a sweet blue silk packed away which I've outgrown. Wear it to please me, won't you?" "You are very kind, but I don't mind my old dress if you don't," said Meg. "Now do let me please myself by dressing you up in style. You'd be a regular little beauty with a touch here and there," said Belle. Meg agreed. She very much wanted to see if she would be a little beauty after some touching up. The excitement caused her to forget all her uncomfortable feelings toward the Moffats. Belle and her maid turned Meg into a fine lady. They crimped and curled her hair and reddened her lips. They laced her into a sky-blue dress, which was so tight she could hardly breathe. Silver jewelry was added, and a pair of high-heeled silk boots granted the last wish of her heart. A lace handkerchief, a fan, and a bouquet finished her off. Belle proudly looked over her newly dressed doll. Meg got safely downstairs and into the drawing rooms where the guests had gathered. She very soon discovered that there is a charm about fine clothes. People who had ignored her before were suddenly very polite to her. Young boys asked to meet her. But soon the tight dress gave her a side ache. Her skirt kept getting under her feet, and she was afraid she was going to lose or break one of the silver earrings. Then she suddenly saw Laurie. He was staring at her with surprise and disapproval. Something in his honest eyes made her wish she had her old dress on. Meg crossed the room to shake hands with her friend. "I was afraid you wouldn't come," she said. "Joe wanted me to come and tell her how you looked," answered Laurie. "What shall you tell her?" asked Meg, full of curiosity to know his opinion of her. "I shall say I didn't know you, for you look so grown up and unlike yourself. I'm quite afraid of you," he said. "I don't like fuss and feathers." That was altogether too much from a lad younger than herself. Meg walked away saying, "You are the rudest boy I ever saw." She went and stood at a quiet window to cool her cheeks. As she stood there, some of the party guests walked by, but did not see her standing there. Meg heard one of the men say, "They are making such a fool of that March girl. She's made up to look like a doll tonight." "Oh dear," sighed Meg. "I wish I'd been sensible and worn my own things." Turning, she saw Laurie. He said, "Please forgive my rudeness. Come and dance with me. I don't like your gown, but I do think you are just splendid." Meg smiled. She whispered, "Take care my skirt doesn't trip you up. I was a goose to wear it." After the dance, Laurie did not speak to Meg again till supper time, when he saw her drinking champagne and flirting with Annie's brothers. "You'll have a splitting headache tomorrow if you drink much of that," he whispered, leaning over her chair. "I'm not Meg tonight. I'm a doll who does all sorts of crazy things. Tomorrow I shall be good again," she answered. "Wish tomorrow was here then," muttered Laurie, unhappy with the change in Meg. Meg was sick all the next day. On Saturday she went home, feeling that she had sat in the lap of luxury long enough. On Sunday evening she sat with her mother and Joe, saying very little. Then, as the clock struck 9, Meg went to her mother's side, saying bravely, "Marmee, I want to confess." "I thought so. What is it, dear?" She told him how the Muffet girls had dressed her up like a doll, and how she had been flattered by the attention. She also confessed to drinking champagne and trying to flirt. Joe saw her mother fold her lips tightly. Mrs. March said gravely, "I was very unwise to let you go." "I won't let it hurt me, Mother." "Learn to know and value the praise which is worth having, Meg." Meg sighed. "Poor girls don't stand any chance, Belle says." "Then we'll be old maids," said Joe. Mrs. March held her daughter's hands. "My dear girls, you do not have to marry rich men merely because they are rich. I'd rather see you poor men's wives, if you were happy, than queens on thrones without self-respect and peace." One thing to remember, my girls, Mother is always ready to be your listening ear, and Father to be your friend, and both of us hope that our daughters will be the pride and comfort of our lives. "We will, Marmee, we will," cried both with all their hearts. The end.